Well, hello, you beautiful people. It is I, Drinker, and I'm here to answer super chats that were left over from Open Bar the other night. It is last orders for Open Bar number 87, so I'm just going to dive right into them and see if I can provide some half decent answers for you guys. So the first one was from the Angry Badger, who says, shout out to the entire panel, but specifically to Chris Gore and by extension Alan for the very important D files and all the WGA emails and leaks. You boys have been tip of the spear for many recent events. Thank you. You're absolutely right on that one. Those guys at Film Threat have been doing some fantastic work exposing all of this stuff. Their exposés are really well researched. They've brought all the receipts. I heartily recommend that you go read it because you will get a lot out of it. It sheds a pretty interesting light on what goes on at these companies and Hollywood in general. So yeah, big props to those guys. Silent Evil 999 says, along with Godzilla for VFX, anime won Best Animated. Glad to see the legend Hayao Miyazaki get recognition that he deserves. It was a good night for Japan. It was indeed, yeah. And I suppose stuff like that's going to happen more and more often as the quality of Western entertainment goes down. Ultimately, people are just going to look elsewhere, and they're not going to have to look far if all that stuff from Japan is waiting and ready to go. So good on them. Well done. It was well deserved. Kyle Crowell says, cheers to Drinker, Mauler, and panel. By the time you read this, I'll hopefully be a few birthday pints deep. Watching this from a local brewery. I respect that, sir. Well done. Just want to say thanks for the laughs and helping us to stay sane in these strange times. Thank you very much, man, and I hope you had an amazing birthday. Anyone who spends their birthday in a brewery is okay by me. Nice one, mate. 50 Shades of Grayson says, that Sydney Sweeney is all fur coat and no trousers. She is. I don't know, man. She looks like she's all woman to me. Viro's Folly says, dear Drinker, Mubler, and others, what is the best cure for a broken heart that doesn't involve booze, strippers, or homeless people? I don't know, man, because those are my go-tos. Maybe not so much homeless people. I don't know. Do you hunt them or something to make yourself feel better? Not sure. Aside from that, I don't know. Find someone else to replace the person that you lost. That's probably the best advice. Aiken says, are they going to have a black crow or an albino one? Well, based on this, it seems like he's kind of light on the crow makeup, which is a bit of a shame. I much preferred the 1994 version. That looked way cooler. Matt PG says, hail to the panel and chat. Time for Open Bar on the big screen in the garage. Cheers all from Pennsylvania. Check you out, Mr. Fancy Pants. You got a screen in your garage. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's the dream, man. To have like a Tony Stark garage with like computers and TV screens and all that lovely stuff. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the Open Bar, man. Appreciate it. Patrick Mulligan says, get Destiny on. He has Dune versus Interstellar takes. Does he indeed? Fair enough. I don't think he likes me all that much, but I could be wrong on that one. Daily Dose says, just for reference, the ultimate crossover for Open Bar 100, Open Bar, EFAP, and BBC and Stargrift would actually only be 8 people, so it's possible, please. Thanks. It could be done. Maybe not Stargrift, but I'll leave that one for now. Don't count on that sticking around. Tom C says, did you ever watch Severance, the TV show on Apple TV? No, I haven't seen it yet. It's meant to be pretty good, though. Believe it or not, I actually recently got Apple TV and started getting into like some of the stuff that's on it. Been watching Masters of the Air. I've started Silo as well, which I'm kind of intrigued by. So yeah, I'm going to watch more of the stuff that they put out because I don't know. It seems to me like they don't produce a huge amount of content, but it generally seems to be pretty good. I could be wrong there, but yeah, that's what I've noticed so far, I suppose. They've not gone for the Netflix approach, which is just shart out as much content as humanly possible. It doesn't matter what it is, it's just more all the time. Green Hat says, Ben Franklin only learned about daylight savings time from an etymologist fellow. Okay, cool. Well, we're still going to rant about him anyway. Andrew Lee, what's the process for deciding who shows up to Open Bar on any given week? Basically, I wait until about Tuesday of that week, and then I panic because I haven't booked any guests yet, and then I just invite whoever pops into my head, really. I wish I could say I was great at scheduling all the guests on Open Bar and that we've got a schedule and it's all worked out like months in advance. Fact is, it's not. We kind of just wing it because that seems quite appropriate for Open Bar, I think. Everything's thrown together at the last minute. Yeah, so there's not really a procedure for it. In terms of the guests that we bring on, we've certainly got favorites that we've had on quite a few times. Obviously, Gary, Little Platoon, Disparu, guys like that. They are like friends of the channel, so they're like semi-regulars at this point. I try to bring in at least one smaller channel, per week. People who are perhaps not had the exposure that they deserve and producing really good content, because it's good to give other people a chance and give them a bigger platform. So we try to get a mix, a couple of bigger channels that people know, a regular and a newbie. So that's the general mix that we go for. In and Out says, serious question, why is the drinker so lean? Do you follow a low-carb diet or are you a vegan? It's a liquid diet, you see. When you only live on alcohol and you don't actually eat food, it's great for keeping yourself nice and trim. Yeah, man, I do... I do mean to like get back into training a bit better, because believe it or not, I do actually work out and try and like keep myself in reasonably good shape. Bought like a fair bit of exercise equipment that I've put out in my garage, so I'm starting to use that more and more now. I fall into this trap, I suppose, of putting on a bit of weight over the festive period, at Christmas, and I don't know, it feels like it takes until later and later in the year before I lose it again and get sort of into shape again, and I probably should do something about that. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. So I don't know. Hopefully, I can get myself into better shape over the next few months, but we shall see. Kevin O'Neill says, towards the vet bill, love you, Smokey. Oh, thank you, man. That's very generous of you. And everyone will be happy to know that the critical doggo is doing a lot better now. For anyone who missed it, he had to go into the vets last week to get a whole bunch of teeth taken out. It's unfortunately something that greyhounds are kind of prone to. And before I got him, he'd been in kennels for over a year, and so I don't think they had much opportunity to like brush his teeth or anything. Like, I certainly make a point of doing that with both of the critical doggos. Like, every couple of days I'll brush their teeth. Not exactly a fun job, but it needs to be done. But by the time I got him, like, the damage had been done, and I'd been putting it off for a while. I knew he was going to have to go in and get some surgery. Didn't really want to put him through it because it's a shit thing to have to do to them, but had to do it ultimately. But he pulled through fine, so he's recovering well, and yeah, he's right back into his food again, so thank you. Excuse me. Rockstar3 says, daylight savings has nothing to do with farmers. It was literally created in America so men could drink in the evenings before it got dark. Also, where happy hour comes from, you're welcome from America. Is that actually true? No, it can't be for pubs and shit. I refuse to believe that that's the case. Yeah, from when we researched it the other day, I'm pretty sure it was proposed in the 19th century, and then it was kind of codified in World War I to help people save gas and electricity, so they wouldn't have their lights on as early in the evenings, as like a wartime, resource-saving measure, and then it just kind of stuck after that. Derek says, my brother played poker with Cillian Murphy back in 2008. He kept pronouncing his name Cillian, and eventually Murphy politely told him it's Killian. Whoops, I just did the same thing. There we go. You heard it there. Dante Gray says, just went through clips from early 90s Oscars. Billy Crystal on stage and Jack Nicholson on the first row. Got a lump in my throat. Anyone old enough to remember the Oscars when they were good? I do indeed. It wasn't that long ago. They were still pretty entertaining. Probably the last 10 years, they've just fallen off a cliff. Grant says, in the history of the Oscars, when do you think they got it most wrong on Best Picture? Christ, there's plenty to pick from. I think the one that always stuck out for me was Saving Private Ryan. That should have been a shoo-in for Best Picture, and I'm sure it lost to like fucking Shakespeare in Love or something stupid like that. No idea why. That absolutely should have won Best Picture, but fuck me. Yeah, was it that? So what would... let me just check. Yeah, I want to see if it was that it lost to. Saving Private Ryan, Best Picture. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, Shakespeare in Love wins Best Picture over Saving Private Ryan. Good Lord. Yeah, that's got to be the worst. That was a bad call. Gervin Leber says, Hi, Mauler and Drinker, long fan of your works. Do you know Outer Wilds? It's a once-in-a-lifetime gaming experience, the type of which is so unique that you wish you would forget it just to discover it again. A true hidden gem. Well, never heard of it, but thanks for the recommendation. The Bastards Network says, Love your work, Drinker. Thank you. Go away now, and hi, Mauler. Cheers, man. Kangarooster says, The Gentleman's Freddy and Sticky Pete were a Netflix show called Scrotal Recall, now called Lovesick. Decently funny. All right. Justin says, Chris, please review the three-body problem. That's the new thing that Benioff and Weiss are working on, isn't it? It's like a sci-fi thing. Yeah. Be interesting to see what they produce there. I don't know much about it beyond that. Chernobog says, what is the sudden obsession with Sydney Sweeney? Yeah, she's got a nice body, but there's many buxom blondes out there who also have an immaculate face. While Sweeney's face, if we're being honest, is not that of a 10. I don't know what face you're looking at. She looks pretty beautiful to me. As for this, yeah, there's not many actresses in Hollywood that are as curvy as she is. There just isn't. Like Hollywood seems to have this weird obsession with like weird, skinny, androgynous looking actresses that have like the physiques of 12-year-old boys for some reason. It's bizarre. Like someone like Zendaya is probably a perfect example of that. You know, like really tall, gangly, broad shoulders, no real curves or anything. That seems to be the body type that they've been going for recently, and it's pretty fucking depressing to look at. So when you suddenly get someone like Sydney Sweeney, who not only is really beautiful and curvy, but also seems to be happy to show it off to people, great. It's like a crazy throwback to a different time in Hollywood history, you know? That's probably why people are so enamored with her. It's like we've barely seen anything like this in decades, or at least the past decade. Derek says, the lead character in the Fallout series doesn't look like a wasteland survivor. She looks like she's on her way to an avocado on toast brunch. Well, they did say, the makers of this show, that they're not going to try and appeal to fans of the games because it's a fool's errand. They're just going to do their own thing. So make of that what you will. I mean, if she's just been released from a vault out into the wasteland, then I can understand then, you know, she's going to look like a regular person. She's not been in survival mode yet. Because if you're in the vaults, then it's a pretty cushy life, unless you're in one of those horrible vaults that are just like a weird experiment on people. So it might be that she gets progressively more messed up as the series progresses, but I wouldn't hold out much hope. Yeah, it doesn't look great. And the posters I've seen look horrendous. They make it look like some wacky comedy. Michael Muller says, Drinker, now that you've seen all of Attack on Titan Season 1, just wanted to recommend Giguk's YouTube video, Attack on Titan in 9 minutes. Hysterical recap of the first season, 32 million views. Good Lord. That is a hell of a big video. Yeah, I must take a look. Needhugger says, Muller, you said you're more likely to watch a show when you're repeatedly recommended it. Well, here I am recommending Black Sails again. Have fun. Well, yeah, we appreciate the recommendation on that. We've definitely had a lot for Black Sails. Sophie says, Hey boys, trying to prove a point to Jeremy for Geeks and Gamers. Already know Chris's. What are you guys' zodiac signs? Help me to troll Jeremy. Hail the 199. I'm a Taurus. I don't know about anyone else. Yeah, that's all I can give you right now. Pathkeeper says, question for the panel. Do you think that biopic or historical dramas are on the rise as a genre? You had Oppenheimer, Iron Claw, and Napoleon in 1 year, and Shogun on streaming that are receiving praise. I think we could be seeing it, yeah. Historical epics, I think there's definitely an audience for things like that. Biopics are definitely in. We're seeing a lot of them. We've seen a lot of musical ones, like, you know, the Bob Marley one, the Elvis Presley one, the Freddie Mercury one. Like they're doing a lot of them. And I don't know, maybe it's just they're looking for things to fill the superhero void, and we're starting to experiment again with different genres and see which ones take. But yeah, I'm always up for a historical epic. Like, bring it on. And if Shogun is the bar that you're going to set, then awesome, because that show's brilliant so far. Matt PG says Jimmy Kimmel is about as funny as stage 4 cancer diagnosis. No argument here. Snex says, Hail Open Bar. A couple of things. One, nobody says bye like Mahler. That is true. It's his thing. Another recommendation to add to the pile drinker, Hellsing Ultimate. Nazis getting torn apart by vampires in bloody style. What's not to like? Sounds good. Dave's Pepsi says, the new Crow trailer is out. The movie looks fine, but it's unremarkable and lacks real scummy root of all evil villains. Just generic rich bad guy who's maybe a demon. Yes, we said the same thing. It looks all very slick, very, I guess, very refined with nice bits of gory action, but I don't know, man, it just doesn't seem to have a huge amount of heart to it, and I don't really like Skarsgård's look for it. It doesn't look iconic the way Brandon Lee did, so yeah, not loving it so far. Maybe the finished product will turn us around. Sophie says, Mahler, any chance EFAP could be on Spotify? I don't know what Mahler would say to that. I mean, there's no reason why these things couldn't be. Like, I know EFAP is also a visual medium at times because they do a lot of video coverage, so it might be that you can't just have it audio only. Open Bar, you probably get away with that sort of thing. Probably Friday Night Tights as well, but EFAP's more, you know, it needs the visuals there as well. But I don't know, like, not sure what he would say there. Sophie also says, Mark used the Korean heart, hated it, appropriation. Okay, not sure what that is. Rook Takes Rook says, I didn't watch the Oscars because I value my sanity. Fair play. My girlfriend knows Davine Randolph, though, so I've had to listen to her gush about it for days. I just can't stomach all the self-filleting. Yeah, I mean, like we were saying, the Oscars was a lot more restrained and subdued this year and less insane than it usually is. So it was just its biggest crime. It was just that it was boring. Nikolai Volkov says, 90% of the Best Picture winners over the past 30 years are unremarkable, in my opinion. Cheers. I mean, I'd have to go through every one year by year. Like, this year was a good example of just picking a movie that's big, had lots of mainstream appeal, and a safe choice in Oppenheimer. Certainly wasn't a bad movie. Was it the best movie of the year? Not sure. Graf Webb says, cancel Disney Plus. Good advice. Hello Dave says, hi all. For what is a good example of a terrible film with an amazing soundtrack? For me, it's any of the Transformers films or, sorry drinker, Braveheart. That's okay. I've got my issues with Braveheart. God, if you're a historian, it must be a frustrating experience to watch something like that. Bad movies with great soundtracks. I mean, Flash Gordon. As much as it's a cult classic, it's also pretty cheesy. But my God, the soundtrack by Queen is amazing. Like that just makes the movie. Yeah, I love that period in the 80s where you had Queen doing soundtracks for things like Flash Gordon, Highlander, and shit. Like, it just elevates it to the next level. Don Max says, what's your favorite John Carpenter movie aside from Halloween and The Thing? I think you know it's got to be Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, come on, man. I've talked about that movie many times. It's one of my favorites of all time. Hugo Joss Catton says, a trip to the nerd mecca of Warhammer World with my dad today made me all the more excited for the Cavill-helmed adaptation and for hearing my favorite YouTubers talking about this great lore soon. I mean, I hope we get it, and I hope it's as good as we expect it to be, because Cavill deserves a win. He really does. So hopefully this is awesome. The Royal Wee says, Camelot scammed me into buying crypto. Drinker gave me crippling alcoholism. Muller, he made me go back and watch The Prestige. So he's cool. Well, okay, that's fair play. Sean Hill says, best part of the Oscars, hearing Schwarzenegger say, Killers of the Flower Moon. That was pretty good. Zed says, hi. Hollywood is making gay people look bad. It's frustrating. I just want good stories and characters, nothing more. I'm a nerd, but it's getting worse. Yep, that's the power of the message right there. Superfly says, what's your favorite chick flicks? Oh, God, now you're asking. It's not like I'm super into chick flicks or anything. Maybe When Harry Met Sally. That's not bad. You know, Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, that's a pretty good pairing. I always like the Money Pit with Tom Hanks. So that was pretty good as well. And man, what's the other one? There's one with Michael Douglas, like Romancing the Stone. I thought that was pretty good. I don't know if that's classified as a chick flick. I think it kind of is. I think it's like an adventure story told from a female perspective. But yeah, I always thought Romancing the Stone was a pretty neat concept, and I like that. Hemorrhoid Hurts says, Oscars, I would rather slowly saw my cock off with a butter knife than watch that. Tell us how you really feel. Southeastern Kaiju, just here because I clicked on the thumbnail. I think a lot of people did. It's weird because the re-upload of this did crazy numbers on my second channel, and a lot of people were just like, yeah, you got me with the thumbnail. Sydney Sweeney, man, she is clickbait gold these days. Connor says, so about the Crow remake, any trace of a punk rock aesthetic is gone. True. The thing synonymous with the Crow as a franchise, bad times ahead. I agree. Yep. Marine Lad, why do you think TV shows peak at season 3 or 5? I don't know if it's exactly that. I can, when you look at how shows are made, the first season is generally pretty rough because either the writers or the actors haven't quite figured out the characters yet. So the characterizations tend to change a little bit. And quite often the budgets aren't amazing. Once you get into season 2, they start to, settle into a groove. They find the things that work and they start to become a little bit slicker and more refined. And yeah, probably by season 3, you've hit that sweet spot where you've got good solid budgets, a good understanding of the characters. You've found a writing style that works properly. Everything's just should be working in harmony by season 3. And then I guess the problems that creep in once you get beyond season 5 or 6 is, one, you can start to run out of ideas because you've produced a lot of material by that point. And you maybe start to run out of creative steam. Maybe the actors start to get a bit discontent. They want to move on to new projects. They don't want to get typecast. They become more expensive. Contract negotiations become more time consuming. And maybe the atmosphere on set just isn't quite as good by that point. And yeah, that's probably why you start to see a decline often from season 5 or 6 onwards. I mean, damn, it's not many shows that last that long now, even. Michael Whitehead says, there are over 100 movie award shows and institutions around the world, not to mention film festivals. They should be given more attention than the Oscars, which has fallen so far. Example, the Golden Globes. Yeah, it's very true. Once an award show becomes seen as the ultimate, it attracts attention because of that. It becomes self-reinforcing because people tune into that because it's the biggest thing. To win an Oscar is the biggest honor that a film or an actor can look for. And so it reinforces itself. But yeah, when you see how crappy they've become over the years, you can see why there's a good argument to be made to switch to something else. Find a new top dog. Slagloss says, here's 2 for the Goomba. Cody jiggled them for us. Unfortunately, he's not here to do the peck dancing, but hey, he did it on Camelcast the night before, so you can watch that anytime you want. Seki Jokes says, hi, Drinker. Interested to know how far into Attack on Titan you are. No spoilers, but the later seasons deal with similar themes and conflicts to Dune. Interesting. Yeah, I'm just like halfway through season 2 at the moment. Very much enjoying it. It's taken a back seat a little bit because I'm watching Shogun and The Gentleman right now. So, I've only got so much time on my hands. And I've started playing Helldivers 2 as well, which thank you for all the people who recommended it to me because fuck me, that game's good fun. So simple, giving people just a simple concept, really well implemented, great fun. Yeah, so all of those things are eating into my time a little bit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the later seasons of Attack on Titan, see where it goes. Zed says, Giancarlo Esposito is giving the same performance in every project. Am I wrong? And now he wants to play Xavier without the chair. Yeah, that's a little bit bizarre. And, maybe an actor that's fallen victim to typecasting to some extent. He's been in some shit stuff over the years. Really good actor, but yeah, he does tend to end up playing the same character. It's not really his fault. It's the roles he's offered, presumably. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get tired of seeing him like I get tired of Pedro Pascal. I don't know. maybe there's something about him. Maybe he's a better actor. Maybe he's more likable somehow. But yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. That one Ginger Draven says the Crow remake better be good. I have my name on the line. I like Bill, so I hope Alec Baldwin isn't in it. Yeah. Oh, we don't want a repeat of that. Shane Kina says what audiences want is a fresh IP, not essentially a used pre-built property with nothing new to offer. Yeah, I agree, and I would always encourage Hollywood filmmakers and stuff to find new things, to tell new stories, to be original, to use their imagination again, because there's only so many times you can do remakes and sequels to things that have been, fridged for the past couple of decades. We do want new stuff, particularly because when they bring back old IPs, they're usually inferior to what we remember. So I don't want to see more things get tarnished. Plus, I think they've run out by this point. Monolithic says, understandably, the Dune films tried to shift from the book's focus on world building and concepts to a character-driven narrative, yet it fails to develop deep and sympathetic characters, compromising both. That's a pretty interesting perspective on it, actually, yeah. You've got a bit of a halfway house where they don't give the characters enough personality and motivation to let you bond with them, but then the world building is kind of sacrificed for them, and so you don't get a strong sense of what the state of the galaxy is. It's an imperfect, franchise that they've created for themselves, but it's still better than pretty much anything else that we've had sci-fi wise for a long time. So I give it a little bit of credit for that. Trickster King says, wouldn't it be poetic if Snow White was Disney's first and last movie? Can always hope. That would be quite cool, actually. William Holsomback says, hey, Drinker, I'm a big fan of your channel, which I discovered over a year ago, and I've been enjoying all your videos and open bars ever since. I wish you a wonderful 2024, and I can't wait for Rogue Elements. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that, and I'm glad you've been enjoying my stuff. Villains Brazil says, wait, what? Me and my friends filmed me tie up underwater, and all I got was a white Russian. What? Okay. Chrome Vader says, do you think Sydney Sweeney in a Tomb Raider-esque action adventure film would work? I find the idea appealing, but no dumb franchise remakes something new. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because Madam Web didn't really give us a hint of what she can do action-wise, but hey, Sydney Sweeney with guns and a Lara Croft-style crop top, sign me up. It's not a difficult formula to please guys like us. LDG says, warning, critical member storm. Okay. Jackson Cagle says, sup fellowship, good job on Piers, Drinker. Thank you, it was fun. Chademaine says, hello mates, how do you feel about Forrest Gump? I'm fine with it. Although I fucking hate Jenny as a character. I think she's a total bitch and she just uses Forrest. Yeah, the unintentional villain of the movie. Disco Cobra says, dang, Sydney looks smoking in that dress. Anyway, yes, I think most people are becoming conditioned to woke culture. We think everything has an agenda because 90% of the time it does. Still some decent movies being made like Dune, Ironclaw, and Zilla -1. Very true. And yeah, always appreciate the good things when they come out. Show people what you like. Rory Swain says, hail to the Drinker and Co. If you're a WWE wrestler, what would be your entrance theme? Fuck me. What would I want? I would love the open bar tune, actually. Fuck it. Yeah, I think that would be perfect to come in on. Sign me up for that. Marine Lad says, Drinker and Co. Who would you pick for Oscar host? Why do you think Sound of Freedom wasn't nominated? Also, when is the next Drinker Fixies or gaming? Metal Gear. Well, yeah, so right now I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So I'm streaming that. So you can catch me doing that every couple of days. Oscar host, I would have Ricky Gervais do it. Fuck it, I'd love to see him roast all of them. Why was Sound of Freedom not nominated? I think you know why. It doesn't preach the message the way they want, and probably it hits a little bit too close to home for a lot of them, so that's probably why. Mr. Innocent says, the only good thing about Eternals was the super speed. For once, it wasn't a fucking slow-mo. Yeah, that's true. That wasn't bad when you see him fighting in super speed, but yeah, the rest of the film was forgettable as fuck. Nikolai Volkov says, Chris Can big budget movies from indie studios overtake mainstream studios? Well, I don't know what Chris would say, but I guess that's a bit of a contradiction, because if it does become a big budget movie, then it's no longer indie. It then becomes mainstream. You can only really be mainstream by having big budgets like that. But yeah, hypothetically, say someone like Angel Studios got a massive infusion of cash and they said, we're going to make $100 million movie or whatever. Yeah, it could definitely succeed for sure. It just depends on the quality of the movie ultimately, and how much they can negotiate with distributors to get this into the theaters that it needs. Because it ultimately depends on, well, who are you up against? If you're vying for cinema screens, and the latest Marvel movies coming out, pretend it's 5 years ago and Marvel movies are still super popular. Yeah, you're going to have a real tough time going up against them, because they're going to get all the screens because they're a guaranteed win for the distributor. So it comes down to that, like leverage. How much power do you have, and how much money can you realistically expect to make? Thunder Gumpers says, hot women in movies attract the male gaze and the female gaze. It's a win-win. Gays. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's not many people who are going to object to seeing beautiful women on screen, except for the land whales out there with the purple hair. But that's just jealousy. Dom Predator says, how should I get into the film industry? I'd love to become a director and or writer. I'm going to film school right now. Also, Muller, thanks for the recommendation on Buffy. I'm on season 3. Very nice. And as for how you get to the film industry, man, like it's you're going to have to work your way up from the bottom, I suppose. Once you've been to film school, if you're aspiring to be a director, you're going to have to try and get yourself into a studio, probably like starting off in the camera department or something like that, like a relatively low level position, like learn your trade, maybe try and find someone to mentor you and work your way up from there, I assume. Captain Fabulous says, I'd say AAA games are less affected by the message and more by padded out slop to maximize profits for effort. That's true, yeah. I think the message is becoming increasingly prevalent, though. Also, change the gaming channel to the critical hitter, so it's an actual pun. That's fair play, yeah. I think I'll stick with what I got so far. What was it? Tom Fuller says, you guys just slay me. Keep up the great work. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Joe Edgar says, I watched Elektra. It's a pretty mid film, but it's a lot better than The Marvels or Madam Web. Also, Jennifer Garner is hot in that red costume. She is. She was in good shape back then. Axiom Seraph says, if Messiah is going to be the coda to Dune, will Children of Dune be the prologue movie to a God Emperor trilogy with Leto II being the anchor? You could potentially see that. Yeah, I don't know if they might take the Star Wars approach and divvy it up into trilogies. It's just when you're getting into the God Emperor trilogy, that's weird sci-fi. I don't know how audiences are going to take to things like that, like people transforming into 3,000-year-old sandworms and stuff. That's pretty hardcore. I don't know how well that's going to play out for general audiences, but I don't know, man. Like, we could be witnessing the birth of a new franchise for sure. They seem to be doing well box office wise with the second movie, and I imagine if they do a third one, it'll be even better. Chris Nicholson says, the problem with avoiding stereotypes is that you end up with new stereotypes. For example, if you avoid the trope that Asians are intelligent, do you then want all Asians to be portrayed as dumb? Exactly. Yeah. How about you just have variation in characters? How about you just focus on their unique personalities rather than their innate characteristics? That would be better. E. Smith says, Drinker, in the spirit of good old kick back and enjoy action films, may I recommend 2003's SWAT with Colin Farrell, Sam Jackson, and Jeremy Renner, and The Rundown with Sean William Scott and The Rock. Yeah, I remember SWAT. It wasn't as fun as the premise suggested. It really seemed like it was going to be a balls-to-the-wall action movie, and it just fell flat a little bit for me. I thought Jeremy Renner was kind of wasted. Colin Farrell seemed weirdly miscast in it. Sam Jackson was just Sam Jackson. He's just doing his usual thing. I hope for a bit more from that, and it just didn't quite deliver for me. Yeah, boy says, the bit with the marshlands in Resident Evil 5 was controversial because there was a note in the game that says the people randomly started dressing like their ancestors. Really? Is that it? I don't know. Offsets says, Shiva in both her fairy tale and tribal costume. More of that, please. Yeah, putting her in a leopard print bikini was an interesting choice for the alternate costume. You can see that might ruffle a few feathers. James Moore says they ignore that Shiva, your partner in the game, is from Africa along with her mentor Josh. And don't forget the main villains, Wesker, Excella, and Irving, are all white. Just play the fun game. I know. The thing is, Shiva is a good character. I actually found her like pretty cool. She's interesting. The voice actress did a great job. She did all the mocap for her as well. No idea why they've never used her again. She just vanished after this game, and it's a shame. I thought the chemistry between her and Chris was pretty good as well. So, yeah, games journalists are an interesting breed. They have selective stupidity, and it's turned to on 100% of the time. Your boy says, also the tribe in Resident Evil 5 was made up for the game. Yeah, I can believe that for sure. Pet Brett says, can you guys refer to women in the proper Canadian way as people with vaginas? Look it up, Supreme Court of Canada. I can't buy into that nonsense. It's just the naming conventions they've adopted are just so insulting at this point. I just don't care. Fantastic Mr. Knox says, with all the awful MCU movies we got, that I would say the Nick Fury movie by Hasselhoff is better. Oof, that is a bold choice indeed. Yeah. Did give us a white Nick Fury, which is interesting compared to what we're dealing with now. Roberto Sabando says, I think being okay with the race swap because of the story being competent is the reason why it got worse now. We gave them an inch and they get the entire lane. That is, yeah, very true. Billy Bod says, keep up the good work. Been watching you guys for a while. I'm working on a comic called Two Men in Area 51 about two morons who work at Area 51 and the shenanigans abound. It's taking longer than I thought, but I hope to release soon. Well, best of luck with that, man. Stormbringer says, hail all and cheers panel. A gaming stream to break the internet. Helldivers with Drinker, Mauler, Nerdrotic, and one more. Believe that. Do it now. Well, funny you should say that because I was talking with Mauler about Helldivers and how I've been enjoying it. I need to get my character's level up a little bit, so I need to play a few games offline or whatever. But I'd be happy to play a bit with him and Az and another handpicked gentleman. Yeah, I think crossplay works fine with it. I don't know what it's like for voice communications. I don't know if that would have to be done through Discord or something, but you know, we're relatively intelligent chaps. I'm sure we can figure out something. House of Oddities says, salutations, Mr. Drinker, Mauler, and hopefully the panel was wondering about your thoughts on a movie called The Professional, one of my favorites. Is that Leon the Professional? I'm not sure. If it's that, then yes, that's excellent. If there's a different movie called The Professional, it slipped my mind at that point then, sorry. Justin Hudson Guitar says, Drinker, I'd like to see more channels praise Dune 2 for longer and talk more about the movie. There were weeks of Madam Web talks. Let's not forget to praise the worthy movies while they're out. I mean, that's for sure. Yeah, I guess kind of feels like we've said all that we can say about Dune 2 at this point. You know, we could... I wouldn't want to cover it week after week because there's only so much that we can cover on that film now that it's out. We've discussed the plot. Yeah, I just don't know what else we could get out of it now. Bo says, Mauler, I first discovered you on the not so great debate for TLJ that you did with the wolf furry guy. Is he still on YouTube? Yeah, so Wolf, I remember that debate actually. The guy that they were debating was fucking useless. But it's hilarious to watch. As for Wolf, I don't believe he's on YouTube anymore. I think it was just becoming a bit too much of a drain on his sanity. And he decided to call it a day and just, you know, just live his life offline. And I can't blame him one bit. So as far as I know, he's doing fine and he's a happy chap these days. Just not really up for doing YouTube things. Carson Zeal says, thoughts on the movie Stardust, 2007, Charlie Cox and Claire Danes. Interesting take on Western fairy tales. Had Robert De Niro in it as well, I think. A weird little movie. I thought it was fine, I think. I don't remember having strong opinions about it one way or the other. I just thought it was reasonable. You know, it didn't move me particularly. God, Claire Danes, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. What the hell ever happened to her? Like, the last thing I remember seeing her in was Homeland, and that was years ago. Yeah, I don't know. Kevin O'Neill says, it really hurts to see all this artistic and technical talent wasted on unworthy writers. Yes, agree. With a lot of these films, like, yeah, I'm sure there's hundreds of people who work below the line just trying to make this a reality, and they work their arses off. But if the writing's shit, then you're going to get a shit movie ultimately. Irish Trash says, you guys are forgetting load times. You're spoiled now. They used to need cutscenes, etc. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I remember the PlayStation 1 era. You know, you'd have to wait quite a while. Resident Evil had the door animation because you had to load the next screen in, and it needed a few seconds to buffer it. Great times. Mr. Tech Rat says, Drinker, have you had a chance to check out the Angry Badger yet? Any chance of getting him on the open bar? I think I've watched a couple of his videos. Yeah, look pretty good. I'm sure. I think he's on Patreon or something. But I'm pretty sure I've spoken to him. Hannibal Grimm says, would you look at that? They found the same After Effects graphic template as the Candyman remake. Yeah, not so good. Silent Evil says, I think Miyazaki was robbed when The Wind Rises lost to Frozen in 2013. Imagine if Oppenheimer lost out to Barbie for Best Picture. The clear difference, of course, one category is animation, the other is live action. Yeah, I mean, good Lord, imagine if Barbie had won Best Picture. I think we all would have collectively thrown up in our mouths there. Slain Hope says, it's not a remake, it's regurgitated. That's true, yeah. Most of it comes out the other end as well. Shit. Ya boy says, OG Crow movie cast was diverse without trying to be. Yeah, it was pretty diverse. Had a great cast, actually, now that I think back to it. Cosmic Zombie says, I would love a watch party for the movie No One Will Save You. There's no dialogue, so it's easy to talk over without missing anything. Cheers. All right, keep that one in mind. Where to Wander says, hey panel, what film or TV series did the strong female character write? I think Blue Eye Samurai and Ghost in the Shell are good examples. What's others? Yeah, the one I always fall back on is Farscape with Erin Sun. Like, she was a fantastically written, fantastically performed character. Thought they did a great job with her. Never came across as obnoxious or forced. She was just fucking good at what she did. Same with Sam Carter from Stargate SG-1. She was really smart, really good at what she did. She was good at fighting. Never came across as an obnoxious, smart arse, you know? She was a nice person. Imagine that. Imagine having that balance there. Yeah, those are my two go-to examples, I guess. I'm sure Muller would cite Buffy, which he's every right to do. Grunge Cat says, what did everyone think of Poor Things? Haven't seen it yet. Everyone's gushing over Emma Stone's performance. Not desperate to see it. It looks really fucking weird, but I'm sure I'll get around to it at some point. JDB says, name 3 things you wouldn't let Sydney Sweeney do to you. Can't. There's no such thing. Well, I wouldn't let her cut off my supply of booze. That's pretty much it. James Moore says, I knew the Fallout show was going to be bad when they said it was going to be set in Cali. Then the director saying he didn't care about the fans. The setting in the show already exists in the first 2 games. Yeah, not got high hopes for this one. I'm inclined to agree with you. Yirs Rhoda says, anyone else think Buffy is the best superhero? I don't know if she's the best. I'm sure I would pick others over her, but she is good. And I would say, yeah, I'm glad Mahler's not here for this one because he'd probably spend the next 15 minutes talking about how awesome she is. It's great when I've got a monopoly on the responses here. I can just say whatever I want. Chaz says, your work helped me get through my last military deployment. My boss recommended that I watch your content. Some of the best on YouTube. Keep up the good work. Thank you, man, and I'm glad I could help out. Appreciate it. Darth Revan, YouTube decided not to send me the notification that the stream started, so I missed the first hour. What did I miss? Nothing. We were just waiting for you, sir. Yeah, to be fair, we were talking pretty much about the Oscars in the first hour, so I'm sure you can watch the re-upload on my second channel. Where to Wander says, has anyone watched A24 Has Been Hotel? Thoughts? It's a good example of a small creator getting a shot. The hell context is interesting and engaging. I haven't seen it, I'm afraid. Don't know a huge amount about it. I know a few people have recommended that I watch it, but yeah, just haven't got around to it. Goob says, my new favorite Monday activity is Mauler and Theory Stargrift comment sections. Yeah. Oh, that's brutal, sir. I think I know what you mean, though. Yeah, I guess watch that space to see if anything changes. That's all I'll say there. Cost Billingham says, was baited here by the thumbnail. Well, it did its job then, didn't it? Thank you, Sydney Sweeney, for your service. Silver Grove says, I never heard any of you guys take on Resident Evil 6. Okay, I mean, I'll give it now. It's a mess of a game. It's an everything, and including the kitchen sink kind of game where they just dialed everything up to 11, really. It's just too much. If you look back on my channel, I've got an entire review of it there. It's an old one before I got properly drunk, but yeah, my overall take on it is it's just too much action. It's too overblown. It's too insane. I love the idea of all these different characters from the different games teaming up and having an epic adventure, but man, it just became overwhelming after a while. I think Leon's campaign was probably my favorite because it's the closest in tone to Resident Evil. It's got actual zombies in it. Chrissy's one was just Gears of War, but with like zombies instead. Ada's one is like a hybrid of all the different ones. So, I mean, that was fine, I guess. It's just a lot of like stealthing it up. And Jake Muller's one was just fucking weird. I don't know why they tried to turn it into a beat 'em up. Didn't love that one. Yeah. I think Resident Evil 5 definitely deserves a bit more praise than it gets. I think it's a bit underrated. 6 is a mess. If they were to remake that, they'd have to make some serious changes to the structure of it and the the gameplay style. Stephen D says, there's a scene in Shogun episode 1, a man is boiled and it was awful. No content warning. Watched Aristocrats content warning. What the fuck is Disney's moral compass? Yeah, that guy getting boiled alive was a brutal one. I mean, you don't see much. You just kind of hear it. And it takes quite a long time. I think it takes like a day. Like, Jesus, that's bad, man. But yeah, it's not gory. So that's the interesting one. But man, there's some gory bits in the later episodes where people get hit by cannon fire and they are splattered all over the map. It's brutal. But yeah, I'm not sure why there's no content warning there. There should be. TJ says, any of you guys watch Succession? If so, does it add any extra context to some of the corporate media battles that you see, i.e. Disney? I've watched a few episodes of Succession. I just never quite got into it. I don't know why. Maybe I just found it a bit dry for my tastes. I sort of recognized that it's well made, it's well performed, it's well written, just didn't quite grab me. And I know that's a failing on my part, but there it is, I suppose. John Thomas says, Mauler and Drinker, what's the greatest movie ever made and why is it Casablanca? No, clearly the greatest movie ever made is Big Trouble in Little China, and I will accept no arguments to the contrary, sir. Casey Boyd, would you guys recommend Empire of the Sun? Yes. A slightly overlooked Spielberg movie, I guess. People don't talk about it a whole lot these days, but a properly epic World War II movie. Yeah, great performance by Christian Bale. The visuals are absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, and it tells like a properly epic, emotionally satisfying story. Like he's a very, very different person by the end than he was at the beginning. Yeah, a good movie. Patrick, currently living in the area where the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and Crow movies were filmed. Some of the stories behind the Crow being cursed are very interesting. Maybe a good idea for a production hell video. Yeah, I mean, aside from the obvious, death on set, I don't know if there was any other issues that they had. I would need to look it up because I don't know much more about the production there. I don't know if there was other problems that they had throughout it. Be interesting to look at, though. I mean, the main star of your movie literally getting fucking shot and killed in the middle of production is pretty disastrous. Not to mention an absolute tragedy. But yeah, I'll need to look more into that. Chris Bent says, Drinker, please watch Attack on Titan with subtitles. The English dub completely ruins it. You may think it's okay, but the Japanese voice actors are way better. I mean, I probably agree with you. I'm sure they are a lot better. It's just, it allows me then to not have my eyes glued to the screen all the time necessarily. Like I can be doing other stuff while I'm getting through multiple episodes. Not that I'm not paying attention or anything, but it's just like, Yeah, it demands absolute focus if you're reading subtitles. So I guess that's the difference. And I do like I guess because I've been watching like a season or two of it with the English voice actors, I've kind of become attached to them now. It's how I know the characters. Nicholas Kreuzer says Alec Baldwin is indicted. Yeah, I heard about that actually. So I don't know where this is going to end up for him. Is he going to end up in prison? Casey Boyd, did you guys ever watch Batman the Animated Series? Probably a little bit back in the day, because it was mid to late 90s, I think. So I was still kind of a kid in the early years of it. I remember watching a bit. I liked their take on Two-Face. I don't know if I was like an avid fan or anything, but I liked the visual style. I think it was relatively mature with a lot of their episodes, from what I recall, considering it was a kids' show. Yeah, I remember it being pretty good, but I would need to rewatch it really to give you a proper assessment of it. I've never seen Planet of the Apes, and I'm not sure where to start because there's so many movies. Which ones do I watch? Well, don't watch the Tim Burton one, that's for sure, because it's shit. Really, just watch the original one if you want like the proper Charlton Heston original. Yeah, watch that. The sequels were pretty gash, if I'm honest. I never really cared for them. The only one I thought was kind of interesting was Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which is like their rebellion against the humans. That was okay. And the new trilogy that they made is fine. I think from a visual standpoint, from a performance point of view, it's really good. I don't feel compelled to rewatch them at all. I don't consider them like timeless classics or anything. They're just solid, well-made movies, I suppose. Was the Jedi mind trick inspired by Dune? Well, that's interesting, actually. The voice he's in Dune might have been. Only George Lucas can probably answer that, I guess. R.I.P. Akira Toriyama. Would you ever watch Dragon Ball Z? Yeah, I mean, people go on about Dragon Ball Z a lot. Like, I know it's considered an absolute classic of animation. I guess I just need the time to watch it because it's massive, as far as I know. So there's a lot of content to get through there. Chad says, review Black Rain, Ridley Scott. Thank me after. All right. Some Norwegian guy says, I found the first Dune boring and a bit pretentious. Should I give part 2 a chance? Yeah, I would say you should. I think it's worth it. Stuart Barham says, if they remade Christine today, what car would Christine be if she was a modern car? Well, the thing about Christine is it's meant to be an old car, isn't it, for the time period. So it was like a fucking 1950s thing. And it's old and beat up, but then it repairs itself. So, man, you might as well just go the whole hog and make it like a Cybertruck or something, because they practically like are sentient by themselves. It's got a computer virus that's made it go crazy. I don't know. Max Gagliardo says, hey, Drinker, as a Scotsman, what country would you erase, the UK or France? No offense, Mauler. I would erase the UK and erase myself from existence and do the world a favor. I mean, to be fair, the French have got better wine, probably better food, but then we've got whiskey. Nah, in fact, fuck them. I'm going to erase France and I'm going to keep the UK just so I can enjoy good Scotch whiskey. Ginger Jedi says, went and saw Dune 2 last night at 6 o'clock. It was packed. Every seat was taken, and that was a Wednesday night. Yeah, I mean, that is a pretty strong showing then. I think it's doing really well at the box office, so good on it. Max Gagliardo says, do you guys remember Easterlings in the Two Towers? They are the same. It's like guys who Frodo hid from at Mordor. I always found them cool. Yes, it's cultures and races that Tolkien doesn't go into much detail with. Like there's a place called Harad to the south. It's like a parable of the Middle East. You got Easterlings, I guess, from Asia. And then I can't remember what the other ones are called, but like they're meant to represent Africans. That's where they got the war elephants and stuff. So it's very cool. It's little hints of a much bigger culture and a bigger world. But it's not really explained much in the context of Middle-earth. There's also, and this is something the movies have made, there's like, I guess it's like Tolkien's version of Neanderthals, when Aragorn and the riders of Rohan have got to get quickly through forest and stuff to get to Minas Tirith to help out with the siege there. And they end up talking to the forest men, and they're described as, you know, they're very primitive clothes, primitive weapons and stuff, and they speak in this very simplistic way. And I think they were Tolkien's take on Neanderthals. Again, something that the movies never even show us because it's probably just more detail than you could really cover. But again, an interesting thing that's hinting at a bigger world. You just don't get much of them. And Silent Evil says, "Don't tell Mom the babysitter's dead." Why? Yeah, I remember that movie. Oh, yeah, not a great one. But, well, that was actually the last one there. Yeah, that was the last of the super chats. Thank you guys for sending all those through. I know it was just me on my lonesome today, but hopefully I've answered them as best I could for you guys. Yeah, the next thing that you see from me will probably be open bar, I suppose. I'm definitely going to have another video out before then. And I might do a bit of live streaming of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because I've been enjoying that game and it's been fun to play through. But anyway, I'll finish up there for now. I won't waste any more of your time. So that is all I've got for today. Go away now.